first and the second goals here, because the feedback would be important for both our
Right.
course offerings and our extracurricular offerings.
Right.
But we do adjust, we do add, and we do.
We do, definitely.
And let's not leave out those kids who are going to have an oh my God moment when they graduate and they're not going to college and they have to go get a job and things like that. We should be looking at, talking about getting them ready for that too, not just the kids that are going to college. Let's talk about the whatever percentage of it is. I don't know what it is. Dr. McKay, you might know, but what percentage of our children don't go to college?
Yeah.
And then have this oh my God moment the day after graduation and go, what am I going to do with my world?
If you include the military, it's about 18%. If you
Okay.
include the kids who are going to military. And that has been my goal, with the CTE programs from the beginning, which was even if the child after 3 courses in a CTE program, say in construction, realizes that they don't want to do that knowledge base of knowing what they don't want to do is just as valuable
Sure.
as knowing what they want to do.
Right.
And remember, we're still talking about 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds, and oftentimes they may be all over the place with what they think they want or what they want. And by offering as many of those CTE programs as we possibly can, and again, I'm proud that we still have 7 strong CTE programs, that the child has the opportunity to explore just what you're talking about, Mark. I mean, that really is crucial, because it's not, if there's no direction, then it's still a direction, right? I mean,
Sure.
okay.
So then maybe we could add that, your own curriculum too. So we could
Yeah.
add that as a goal to maybe another word, explore, because again, that's just what we're doing. Options, when we have the CTEs, but options, how to prepare students who are not going to college,
Mhm.
what we can do to meet their needs as well.
Yeah, and I have an idea for a possibility of an additional program where I think there will be interest. So that's something that we should talk about.
So we
Because
can
it
do
would be
that.
something.
There's a lot of kids that graduate and they go out to start their own businesses and they're very, very successful without even stepping
course.
foot in a classroom after high school.
Right,
Right.
you were just talking about a young man.
Yes, I was. and
Okay,
he's-
so, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. I think these are, we can work on fine tuning that verbiage for next week to include all of these
Yeah, I'm just jotting
Ideas.
down notes so that
Yep.
way.
and review that verbiage, how we want to exactly do that next week. Item C that was on.
Yes, this one is essential. It's very important that this is one of our goals. We are expanding this program. We are putting someone in charge of this program and making sure that we identify earlier in the process. So it's very important that everybody understands that we have a very strong and vibrant ESL program.
Okay.
Justin,
Yes.
just to back up a little bit.
Yep.
Don't we have to add civics? Shouldn't that be part of the goal? Wasn't there a law passed that we gotta add civics?
Yes, and we're putting that in.
So I'm saying, would that be a goal?
We can put it
Since I
in.
don't think we.
Yep,
have-
we can.
I mean, it's required,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
All right, just bring it up.
Yeah.
Definitely. For that item, where we want to survey or solicit feedback on additional course offerings and extracurriculars, what's our timeline for that? When do we want to have that feedback back so that we can make decisions for the next school year based upon that
When's the
feedback?
next curriculum committee meeting?
That I don't know. We're gonna get that set up. Maybe
But
it's
we
the end of
could,
the
we could
school
build
year.
the survey out of that meeting.
Right.
But we know when we need the information by, don't we?
Right, would it be
Yes.
around budget season?
Yeah, what would that be? January?
January
January.
and February.
Okay, so we're going to say that's January.
You put your course study out in February and March.
Okay.
If we're doing the surveys for courses, I think we should check at the end of the year how much of that survey actually made a difference. If we have 20 kids saying, want to take construction,
Mhm.
but in actuality, only 2, we have to know that percentage for next year's planning.
How many signed up versus
Yeah.
how many said they were interested.
So we should do like an exit, just quick numbers saying
Sure.
how
And it-
well the surveys went.
And again, the piece of that is, and I'm just thinking as a high school person, the piece of that is, I wanted to take that course,
Right.
but I also wanted to take this
Yes.
course and this
Right.
course.
And they were
Because
offered
I
at the
wanted to
same
take
time.
this course and
I
this
didn't
course,
fit my
Yeah,
I
schedule.
couldn't take this course.
Yeah, there's quite
a bit of that.
There's quite a bit of that. Yeah. Mhm.
But it'd be interesting to see how many of those kids we have and in
Yeah.
what areas.
Yeah, and then to circle back and evaluate whether making any modifications or
Right.
changes was successful. Okay, we'll work on that exact wording for the next draft of this. And then item 2 is very similar. It's in the same vein, except it's speaking to extracurriculars as opposed to course offerings. So-
Right, and I think that we did a really good job last year. We identified some new activities and
Yes.
added like the esports.
Mhm.
Thank you, Matt Shea, for
Mhm.
that.
There's a sweatshirt on, pointing to it. You can't
Stand up, Matt
behind
Shea,
the
we're gonna
TV.
clap for you.
Modeling his sweatshirt.
But, I think that to look at the patterns and the trends, and that was definitely a trend that we were seeing of popularity. So,
It's huge.
you
right
know,
now, too.
yeah,
It's so
so-
huge across the state and the country. We've been following it. It's amazing.
yeah, and I've spoken to this before. There's a lot of scholarship money that comes along with it. So I'm thrilled that we have that here.
Yeah.
And I want to continue to look at those trends of activities
Yeah.
that we might not offer here that we could start adding to.
Absolutely.
So
The
I-
world
like-
is, constantly changing and
Mhm.
students' interests are constantly
Yeah.
changing. So we need to make sure that every year where we decide to spend our resources changes with that.
Yeah, so I think that we did a really good job last year with that, and I'd like to see if we could identify a couple more.
Great.
Already has.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I wrote.
And we'll talk about that at the Student Life Committee meeting too, in our planning.
Okay. So item 3 was providing board oversight to ensure the continued progression of the in-house initiatives which have replaced outside therapeutic services. We were supposed to report out 3 times per year on that. I believe we did once or twice.
At least twice. We didn't do
Twice.
3, but we did 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
so do you want to leave it at 3?
Is that an ongoing program that the board wants to continue to monitor?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's important, very important. And I think we should add, we have December, February, June, so 3 times, but report out 3 times per year. And like, what should be included with that is like quantifiable data. Like, we want to know, are these programs working? We took out our therapeutic services. We have to make sure we're doing what our students need. So just adding with quantifiable data metric. I know, you got me on it now. So that way that's just simple.
How do you quantify that?
What?
I'm just wondering what kind of quantify, like, it's easy to say, quantifiable data.
Well, because when you're dealing with
Like how many
therapeutic
kids, or what's
situation, I
the-
mean,
what's
you
the-
can look at, there's so many different components. I mean, you can compare attendance, you can compare test scores, you can compare needs of students, hospitalizations. I mean, the list is endless. I mean, to me, I could do a whole dissertation right on that one little line right there and nothing would make me happier. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Okay, going on from that, the next board goal and activity was to provide board oversight over the Department of Special Services to ensure that we're meeting the needs of all students. And this is something that the Special Services Committee has worked on.
Yeah, the Special Services Committee is meeting tomorrow. We have a meeting planned. So we can discuss this as well, but I think, we should keep it. Continue with all those aspects. We'll just change the timing, because the timing is pretty similar, ongoing, February 15th, ongoing February 15th. We'll just change the year.
How do we get feedback from Cpac?
Well, we have,
We have them right in our meeting. And then they bring back they'll report back to us on what their meetings were like.
Oh,
right,
they're in
well,
our meeting?
we hold meetings. What happens is whenever the CPAC wants to meet with us,
Okay.
they're more than welcome to call a meeting. And then we just happen to call them CPAC Administrative Board meetings. And those are their meetings. They give us an agenda and they can report to us whatever they would like, give us information, have us look into different things. Recently, and then in our special services meetings, like Will Learn, our new director of special services has met with the CPAC, taken tours of recently, tours of the school, went through and looked for different sensory things. And then in all those meetings, we'll get a report back.
Okay,
And
but they
we
don't
have-
attend our meeting, right? Or
They
do?
used to
I
have
thought they
meetings
didn't.
with
Okay.
us quite often before COVID. And then once
Mm.
COVID
Yeah,
hit,
And that's up to them, whenever they
yeah,
want to call.
they would
and we're
call
always
us
open.
and say, you know, we want to have a meeting. And we had meetings quite often.
We
Yeah,
did.
I was just wondering because I'm on special services and I hadn't seen them at a meeting, so I didn't know if we usually
Yeah, this
had
past
them
year,
or
they
how-
haven't really done that.
or if they dealt directly with you or how that worked.
No, they,
No,
yeah, I think
yeah.
COVID kind of put a clamp,
Yeah.
but no, in the past, I'd say we used to have, they would call a meeting once every other month with
Yeah, that's
us.
what I was gonna say.
And
Yeah.
we would all come together and like I said, it was their meeting. We opened it to them. We
Okay.
completely follow the guidance given by the Department of Education and allow them to come to us.
And did we invite them to
No, because those are our committee meetings
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
then they're separate. If they want to
So
call
we don't
one
invite them, but we do meet with them.
We do meet with
Okay.
them.
at their,
Yeah.
yeah, it's for them to, whenever they want. And if I haven't heard from them for a while, as a chairperson, I'll reach out to the Cpac and say, hey, things are getting busy, let's just say it's the end of the year, things are coming to a close. Did you want to meet with us? If you do, maybe a good idea to throw out a time to schedule. But
Okay.
yeah, we probably met with them before COVID, once
I
every
would
other
say
month. I
every
would
other
guess.
month. And we were even planning like a fair to get together with them. Like we were
Right.
going to do a whole
But
evening
then
of different
unfortunately,
things.
COVID.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
So,
So
yeah.
And
many
then
things,
even
right?
as a matter of fact, I mean, just what I did, knowing that, for example, for communication, knowing that the fence in the playground was on, since that was, to give you an example, the CPAC came to us and brought their concerns about the fencing at Glen Meadow forward to the committee. So then I punted that off, as I would, to Buildings and
Buildings
Grounds
and grounds.
and said, this is their concern. We all went and saw it. And we took a look at it and now here it is. So I had sent an email to the CPAC just saying, hi, tonight, this is on the agenda, please watch, so that way there's communication and they're aware that this is on and I've been keeping them abreast of it. So, yeah, that was their follow through and here it is now sitting on the table. So it's actually a pretty good success.
Should we put on here that we should try to meet with them on a certain amount of times a year or something like that? So that
I don't want to,
It's up to them. you're saying.
Whenever they call us, we have never turned them down for a meeting, one of those
No.
meetings.
And
So
we've invited them on building tours and everything,
Yeah.
so,
our doors are open anytime they ever want to have a meeting. Our superintendent's been good. She's met with them, our director of special services.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put anything on them and say that they have to meet with us so many times a year because the thing with the CPAC is it's a special education parent advisory group. The school district cannot run the CPAC or the Board of Ed meeting. So we can't tell them what to
Right, to
do.
me.
So I want to honor the parent aspect of that and, let them run it. And like I said, whenever they want to come meet with us, they're more than welcome to.
and sometimes they'll ask us to come to a portion of their meeting. We've
Yeah.
done that,
Mhm.
so it's
Okay.
been good.
Yeah,
I
I
think
just
it's-
like to engage with them more, be-
Yeah, I think we haven't engaged as much
Yeah.
because of COVID, so.
Right, I understand.
Yeah,
Okay,
Special services is like IEPs and stuff for the children, right?
yes.
Do we look at that they're being met? Or are we meeting with the parents that have to be met on a yearly basis?
Well-
Are we missing some of the IEPs, especially like this last year or two, year and a half with COVID? How, and it's not, we need it on a student level, but how we are doing as a district, are we meeting what we're supposed to get done? Because
Yes.
that should be
Yeah,
something we should be looking at.
yeah, the question,
also.
I'm sorry, did you want to respond, Mrs. Coughlin? or no?
You can, how about I reply from a board and you from our administration?
Okay.
From a
Okay.
board perspective, for us, I understand your point because I'm the same way. And if I could take my word for it, I would, but that would be administrative.
Mhm.
So as a board, what we can do is like here on our goal is provide board oversight. But we can't delve into the administration of it and say, are you doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing? Because then we would be overstepping. But then that's where we would refer to the administration who would then report back to us. So then I'll defer to Karen. Thanks.
So to answer your question, and I'm luckily Mr. Fay is here to correct me if I'm wrong, our Director of Special Services. Mr. Smagler, you may not see him, he's behind the television, but he is here this evening and I'm grateful for that. So even last year during COVID, our IEP teams and our case managers were responsible to meet with families. Like almost every other interaction, a lot of those were done virtually. But I think that's what you mean by saying, are we meeting our district responsibility? by making sure that that we are meeting with the parents in a timely manner according to the IEPs. Is that the question?
Yeah. if we were
Then the
meeting
answer
those-
would be yes. Mr. Fay, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, that would be yes. Up until the summer, predominantly all virtual meetings, and we found actually excellent attendance from parents. Virtual was convenient for a lot of parents with their work and et cetera. But we stayed the course and we met all our deadlines. So it's really a good system.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, yeah. I just want to make sure we're tracking it. That's going to be our goal. Then we should make sure.
We're communicating with the county as far as what the guidelines will be for the upcoming virtual podium option.
Mhm.
So it's really whatever, going to be the most convenient for the county.
And Charlie, if you ever want, if someone can't attend one of the special services meetings, and I always ask people to, what items they'd like on the agenda, and you want to either give an item for an agenda or attend in someone's place if they can't come, you're always more than welcome to. And then we could delve into that, like, we do review the services programs, department goals, all that kind of stuff, but it's a fine line that you can't abuse.
Right.
So I'd like to actually add something to this goal,
Okay.
because it talks about the wide range of the needs of our students. I'd like to see all of our neurodiverse students kind of start falling under that special education umbrella. Even for those students who are academically performing at the top, their needs are different than their neurotypical peers. And I think it's important that these types of students are kind of led by a team that understands both sides. A certain percentage of them would fall under special education and other neurodiverse categories. Vernon has always been ahead of the curve in this area, and I'd like to continue to be ahead of the curve in this area.
So what are you looking to specifically add?
I think that it's important that we start having our students with PSPs also be part of the special services umbrella. They're kind of very separated right now. We have I can't remember if it's a director, coordinator
Yeah, the gifted program.
for the GATE program, but I think it's really important that these kids are neurodiverse. So we might as well, instead of doing some of it here and some of it there, streamlining it a little bit more. And I feel that we may be missing some kids that are both because they're good at hiding it. So I think that if we put it all under the same umbrella and we review their services and their programs, same as it says special services, we'd be in a much better position to help those wide range of needs.
I agree with you completely. And one of my philosophies, being a board member and just someone who's been in the field of special ed for 25 years, like it is. Special ed is anyone on either side of the bell curve. No matter how much people want to argue with it, it's the umbrella, it's people in the middle of the bell curve. That's your general ed. It's the kids on either end. And then you have the Venn diagram where they cross over and you have everybody in the middle. My only concern with that, and I'm just going to say, this is my only concern. I completely agree with you. I don't know if maybe we should do something different, include it in, but special services is a gigantic committee. I mean, we could meet twice a month easily without any problem and still have full agendas. So I'm more than happy to take it on, but as it is, like having to reschedule, and I mean, understandably, the summer is so difficult in general, and then the end of the school year. But it is a very big committee, which, don't get me wrong, I kind of do enjoy that. I just want to make sure, Adina, that your needs are met, because I understand your needs and I agree with them. I don't know, should we do a completely separate goal? Do you want to keep that together? Like,
I think a
what
separate goal-
works?
I think either way would be appropriate. I think in some ways maybe we can explore starting out together, and if it's not working, if it's too much, then we can move it in a different direction. I think it has to be fluid, right? Because it's new.
Right.
It's kind of like a new suggestion or a new way of looking at things. So I don't know that we'll have all the answers.
Okay.
I'm happy to see it as either. I
Okay.
think just having it on our minds and working towards it is a really good start.
Okay. I'm willing to take it on. Very happy to do so. And obviously anytime, like I said with Charlie, if an item or, feel free to bring items forward. It's just special ed and special services, because then under special services, so everyone understands you have special services, you have related services. We've also included 504s as needed. Going now with the PFPs, like looking at the budget. As Dr. McKay has always said, and this is so true, your special services director is always like one of the most important people in your whole district, without a doubt, because what people don't understand for a director of special services, and that whole field in general, is what you have to know. Like, people often think, oh, they don't have to know curriculum. And I just kind of chuckle and I say, no. They have to modify curriculum. So if you have to meet one student's needs, and that student is in 3rd grade, but reading at a kindergarten level, but doing math at a 4th grade level, which may not be uncommon, you have to know every single curriculum across the board and how to modify all of them to meet that one student's needs. And then that's not the student sitting next to them. So it's a huge comprehensive thing, as you know.
Absolutely.
So I'm more than happy to add it. I just want to make sure as we go along, if you feel as though your needs aren't being met in it, I don't want to ignore them. Please be vocal and let us know. And if we can all be fluid and work with adjusting it as needed to meet everybody's needs, that would be good.
Okay, so why don't we say that we will review the services and programs available to students with PFPs,
I would appreciate
similarly
that.
to A.
And there are
and just
people, in the district that's what they do. So they would be a really great resource
Right.
for that.
And I just want to make sure that every board member is aware of what we're talking about, because not everybody was around when this was implemented, but the PFP is a preferred future plan, and that is for students who are in the gifted and talented side of the spectrum of neurodiversity.
And some students have PFPs and IEPs. So there's that crossover.
Okay.
And just so everyone here is aware, because I know I get this question all the time, there can be students who are gifted and talented, but also have learning disabilities. It's not uncommon. Those students are called twice exceptional. So it literally, the spectrum of how this goes across is huge. So that's not uncommon at all.
For the activity 5, I believe that this can be removed because
Well, I don't want to remove the authentic senior year experience for the class of 2022. So I don't know where you want to put that, but I want to make sure that the Student Life Committee focuses on, an authentic senior year for our seniors.
why don't we move that to 1-3?
What are you saying? 1-3?
Move it to 1-3. Is
That makes sense.
is that all right?
What's
I mean, it doesn't
1-3?
really fall under 1, but
Yeah. When you say 1-3.
district goal 1 and
Oh.
then
But
activity
the
No, it
3.
student life committee box is number 3,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because I guess it would be initiative, so we could put it in there.
But
Um,
doesn't really have anything to do with a safe learning environment, but supported at every level from classroom to community.
That is such an important aspect. I don't want to lose sight of that, and I want that to be a goal.
I could see it falling under community though, because within communities, senior
Yeah.
class has a
Okay.
sense of community within the larger community of the school.
All right, so we'll move it there.
Okay.
Anybody opposed to eliminating the rest of that goal, which speaks to,
Well, I mean, like, do we want to wait to see if there's going to be,
Yeah, because we may
we
possibly.
might have a hybrid situation.
Yeah.
Like, can never rule that out.
no, but
Well, we also may, we hopefully will be in person, but we might have quarantine shutdowns. So
Yeah, then how do you?
I
educate
think
them?
can we just leave it and
Yeah,
just,
maybe
and
we
just
should leave
see?
it.
Visit it in January.
Yeah, because if it's obsolete, then it'll be
Yeah.
apparent, like, we'll be saying like, well, there was no virtual, so that,
Right.
Yeah, why don't we just put revisit
How about
January?
we just modify to support students, parents, and faculty and staff if there is.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
there is a hybrid or. virtual
Okay,
learning
you could do that.
component.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
So then we're not going to
Then we don't
move this
No, we won't
senior.
move it. We'll modify. it.
Yeah.
What's that, Mark?
Then we don't jinx ourselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's true.
You're
That's
right.
good,
If we
yeah, we
remove
should-
it, then it's definitely
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. Okay. Activity 6 was to create an ad hoc committee to determine the feasibility of alternative school start times, and that committee did not get off the ground in the last school year.
No.
We shelved it because of COVID. It just felt like, we can't really talk about that when we're not even sure we're in school. So
Yeah.
we
Right.
kind of tabled it, but we should do it now. I mean, it's part of your county goals too, right?
Yes, we added that to the county goals, but that's a very long, it's going to be a very
Yes,
long
it'll be a
range.
long process here too, yeah. It will
It's
be.
not a short conversation.
Is this something that has interest from a majority of the board still?
Why don't we
I'm
modify it?
definitely interested.
Why don't we modify it to track how we're doing this year?
Hmm.
See if we're gonna do 15 minutes and let's see how it turned out and the benefits and stuff.
Well,
Instead of
who is
trying-
going to be on this committee?
I'll be in it.
I would do it.
I'm having deja vu to us signing up for this committee last year, and then we didn't get it off. the
Okay, so
ground.
it's Ray, Jen, Adina,
And I
and
would gladly
Justin.
be on that. 'cause
Okay, Ray,
I've supported that for a long time.
Jen, Adina, and Justin. Okay, you guys are
Can't
on
wait
it.
for-
And say good luck to you guys.
Yeah.
We know it's gonna be.
God
hard.
bless.
Anybody know a good babysitter?
Who's gonna chair that?
Chair.
I need to chair.
I think this has been a passion, a pet project for Jen for some time. that She's spoken to. for a while.
I took it on from, I think it was Mike Peak, right? Wasn't it Mike?
So you're going to
Peak?
chair?
Would you?
Oh, boy. All right, I guess. Yeah, I should chair something. in there.
Pressure's on, Jen.
All right, yeah.
Okay,
But we didn't, so we had a committee
we did.
even prior, because when
We-
Mike was on.
Well, we
It was
did. It
Jen,
never
Mike-
got off the ground.
No,
But
we,
that's not this one, right? This is
We-
another one?
We did
I don't
have
know
an
if we
ad
have
hoc.
one when Mike was on, but
No, we didn't.
we had this goal to have a committee and then we talked
It
about it
just
and we
never,
said,
it never
Okay.
went
there's
anywhere.
no
like a do-over.
point.
Yeah, because I
Right.
just remember sitting in the middle like that and we had, and then I remember people,
And
No, we
Yeah.
talked about it a lot. I think that was 2019, because I was on 2019. We talked about it, I think, for months.
Mhm.
And then.
When I came on,
January,
we
when
did,
Jen
were-
came
yeah.
on, that's
there were
when
lots
we
of-
rolled.
I think, yeah, and I think the
There are
data
lots of
was saying that
superintendent
we needed an hour
Right, and the
to make
data
it really.
And we
And
started
didn't
talking
have
about,
that.
yeah, we started talking about sports and
Yeah.
then COVID hit that year, at the
Yeah,
end
then
of that
that
year, and
stopped
it
the
all just went to,
Okay.
There were more important things.
yeah, we had other fish to fry.
All right, so we're going to leave that like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen, Ray, Dina, and Justin.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
District goal number 3 speaks to budgeting. So that is to exercise fiscal responsibility in order to optimize the district's limited resources towards safety and student achievement while continuing to pursue additional sources of revenue to fund what's possible. And the first activity under that is to optimize the district footprint and personnel based on current and anticipated future student population. We, 3 years ago now, almost, or 2 years ago, conducted a demographic study,
Mm.
which really kind of got thrown into the air by shifting,
COVID,
by
right?
demographic
Yeah.
shifting dramatically.
As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, we have 2,945 students. So we're over the GRIP
The study
study
projections.
by about 240 students.
For what this school year's
For this
projection
school,
was
yeah.
in the group study.
Mhm.
And COVID
And there's
changed
still
that,
days
you know.
left in August.
He didn't know we were gonna have a pandemic.
He
right?
did not. He did not. And he does a terrific job, but things have changed
Yeah,
dramatically,
Yeah, for sure.
which is all good news. We welcome everybody who's coming to our community and wants to take part in our school system. You are welcome. You are loved. We are delighted to have
Can't
you.
wait to have you.
Yep.
Okay, so what do we want to do with this year? We need to continue to evaluate our demographics when we're making budgeting decisions for the next school year. So I think we need to continue to have this. Right, Kelly?
Yes.
We're
We're using this study with our long range plan. They asked us if we had a study, so we were ready and had that. So that was good. So yes, we are utilizing it.
Yeah, but isn't that demographic study
Yeah,
kind of done? Because the kid said
Well,
we
it
kept
says
getting
updated.
smaller.
it does say updated with current figures, right?
Now,
mean, I wouldn't do another demographic study right
No,
now.
I
No.
No, I'm not
No.
saying to do
It
that.
was
I wouldn't.
pricey.
I'm
yeah.
not
That's
saying to
why-
do a new one, but
It'd be like-
it should reflect we're going in the opposite direction. real data versus study.
There's
Especially when
gonna,
we
there's
talk-
gonna be a big shift. We have a lot of factors coming into the entire market. So I just, I think we need to hang on to our hats for a year just to really be able to see the full picture.
Yeah, there's some.
Because there's
I
gonna
think
be,
so,
there's
too.
gonna be factors in December that are really going to affect our town. And I just think
Are you
that
talking about foreclosures?
all the foreclosures
Yeah.
gonna hit at that time.
Yeah, a lot of foreclosures.
So,
are-
I mean, that is going to change the dynamics.
So to Ray's point, item B here, we should remove that. We're not going to recommend student or personnel structures based on the
that
study,
Study, yeah.
right? So we would say based on current
Current demographic
enrollment
data.
trends.
Yeah.
Why don't we say monitor current trend, because it's changing, right? So.
Yes. Do we want to continue to evaluate the current and future grade alignment within district buildings? Or is that something we're not looking to look at this school year?
I always want to look at that. I get beat down. I feel like we've been through this backwards,
Yeah.
forwards, upside down, inside out, and we always come to the same conclusion at this point. I think if we're looking at a year-to-year thing, we should just give it a rest.
Especially
I
when
just,
there's so much.
I just think anything in this year, I don't want to upset the apple cart.
Okay.
I mean,
Right,
we're,
so
we're,
let's-
we're
yeah.
going, we're gonna be going through enough.
Yeah.
So I think we
let's-
should remove that
Yeah,
this year at the very
We can always
least.
bring it back next year.
we
if
can.
think it's
Yeah,
necessary.
I think any changes right now is just adding an unnecessary layer.
Okay, I agree.
Then it becomes part of your multi-year plan anyway, right? Because we're talking about how these goals year over year evolve a little bit. So moving it to future years isn't a bad idea.
No.
Okay, completing the development of the 3-year financial roadmap and align district resources and revenues accordingly. This was also something that
Mm.
COVID kind of put
Yeah.
to the sideline. Ms. Linsky, you were not here when we were developing a future plan based upon the projected state aid cuts, but it was something that your predecessors were working on, and then they left. So
Is that the one that Ray provided and discussed with the board? for an hour?
no, it was
Okay.
based off of those figures.
Okay.
But
Right.
Steve began to go into a bit more detail, talking about specific metrics that we were and steps we were going to take in years 1, 2, and 3.
Which we should be thinking about.
We
Well,
should be,
let me just say that from the inside out, Ms. Linsky on a daily basis identifies and investigates and recommends cost-saving opportunities to me.
And me too.
And
In fact,
she
the
is,
fact that
I
this is
don't know.
colored
This is
paper,
colored paper.
colored paper, what is
The
going
merit.
on?
that's because I did it
Just
in
want to point
secret.
out that mine is printed in grayscale to save money.
do you guys have a
It
hidden
is
stash
double-sided.
where
All I'm,
you don't show her your color printers?
but all joking aside, I mean, she really has worked on some of the major,
Daily
issues.
conversations, right?
right, about
Yeah, for
cost
sure.
saving. And even when and one of the pieces here is about grants.
Mhm.
And we are after grants
Yeah.
all the time.
And they're coming through. Congratulations. Great job.
Even when they come through, Teresa has
Oh.
14 questions for me about the way it's going to be done and so I can say without hesitation that she's identifying, investigating and recommending cost saving opportunities to us.
Well, let's leave it on there and we can check it off happily every year.
Well, so do we, this spoke very specifically to a format that we were talking about using with
Yeah.
your predecessor. That might not be the format that you suggest.
Teresa might have a different.
You might have a
format for
different
projections.
way for how you do multi-year budgeting.
Well, you know how Steve had broken down the estimates of what the state cuts were going to be, and it was basically a simple sheet, and then it was building off of that, right, to project budget. But some of the things that you've looked at are far more, I don't want to say minute, but far more detailed than that general projection.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't say how she has to do it. It just
Right.
says to do it. So. Yeah, I mean, all we have is the revenues that come in. It's like we can't create widgets and sell them. You know, or we don't have anything to sell. We just have to rely on the funds that we receive in and then take into account trends in enrollment and, you know, it's evolving, you know, like the enrollment's changed. I'll put together, you know, maybe I'll put together a plan.
And it's more like an estimate, right? We don't know what's gonna come in necessarily, but we can probably get pretty close.
Yes, but that was I'm looking at it from the macro level. I guess that's what you're saying. You had a macro look at it. What Ray gave you was a macro look, but you want a micro look.
To a degree,
Okay.
You know-
And what would you suggest be in there? Like,
and
other than
I'm not saying it's the best way to do this. You know,
Right,
you're a business administrator. You know, that's your career. So you would know the best way to do multi-year budgeting and planning more than we would, because that's what you do. So maybe you have a way that you want to work with the finance committee to develop multi-year plans for the next 3 remaining years of state funding cuts.
Right, and I've looked at it from a macro level, not at the micro. The micro level, I am beating everyone up daily when I
She
see
is.
them spending and daily. So I have to, I've never put that down on paper because it's so fluid.
Yeah, it is. It's fluid.
It's
That's
like,
it.
how do you say, I can't say we're gonna cut a program because we're down this amount of money. I think the way that Ray has shown it going forward was that we were gonna fund the cuts from surplus from the years prior. And that got us through to where we level off again. Besides that, it's a budget, and I could, you know, look at personnel and determine what we negotiated and show that going forward, like the big items. And guesstimate, you know, maybe a 2% increase on all of the other items, which would put us over budget at that point because we only have 2% to go to. But I'll explore it with the finance committee.
Okay, so
it kind of sparks a question for me here, and this one probably for Dr. McKay or
I'm right
Teresa
here.
or Karen,
Yep.
whoever. I think it's great that we're taking steps to save money and things like that. Do we track that, and do we know how much money we've actually saved? Or is this something that is like a kind of something that just happens? I mean, I'm just curious because if we are saving money and, you know, the three of you are together on this and you're very successful at it, I think that's something that we might want to put out there and say, hey, you know what, listen, last month we saved X amount of money, or in the last 6 months, we saved X amount of money. And that money now it's still in the budget, obviously. So we saved it and now we're going to put it towards this. I think I think that if you guys are doing that, that's great. And I think that people should know that. So I don't know if we track that at all or what have you, but it would be great to know that we saved $50,000 in 3 months, and now we're going to take that and put it over here where we can use it better than where it was over here. You know,
I don't
it'd be
wanna
really
speak-
neat.
I don't want to speak for Teresa, but there's a phrase that I almost have memorized. Say it for a moment, and then I want to piggyback on it. The pennies.
Watch the pennies and the dollars take care of themselves. It's
Watch-
gonna be on my.
It's going to be on her
If I
tombstone. We
was
talked
not
about
going to be
this.
cremated,
but-
that was gonna be my.
But my point is, and Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong. So Martin, I'm following you. I think, and I don't want to speak for Ms. Linsky, she'll correct me. I think that the concern about this tightening, right, which is what you're describing, and it literally happens every single day in our offices with every conversation, because things come up. Teresa will recommend or speak to Dr. McKay and I, or to Mr. Fay, and say, okay, if we're going to do this, what can't we afford, right? Because we have a budget, we have to stay within budget. So
Mhm.
she really has been the budget police. However, I guess my question is, if we manage to save money on not using color ink or using double-sided instead of single-sided printing, I don't know that the plan is to allocate money elsewhere. I think we want to try to generate savings. Is that what?
yeah, I think Martin is saying, are we
Yeah.
tracking any of those
Oh,
cost savings
okay.
opportunities? Because one of the first
Yeah.
indicators of success for this was to identify, investigate, and recommend cost-saving opportunities. So, if we're identifying cost savings,
Yes.
are we taking note of what those are so that you can kind of
I think
circle
this
back into your
year-
victory lap
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
board?
well, that's a
and
basic
those-
point. That's
Well,
a
that
real
goes back to
positive
your,
thing.
that goes back to your metrics, right? This
Right.
year, we should be able to, because this is a new initiative, right? This will be Teresa's first full year with us. She hasn't yet had the opportunity to work with the administrative team the way that I envision a BA working with principals. I mean, every district I've ever worked in, the BA has met with the principals and had them defend their budget and then actually try to trim. So I know that Ms. Linsky will be working on that as one of her initiatives as well. So that would be a metric, right? Where if we are able to decrease spending in certain areas, that's pennies that add up to dollars, right?
And a lot of what I'm doing or trying to do is free up funds
Yeah.
to handle the special services needs or the curriculum needs.
Yeah.
It's not, it's to make sure, like, someone comes to me and says like, oh, we need, new textbooks. And we didn't have budget, but we absolutely have to have it. It's like, okay, where are we going to cut in order to make that work? Because you have a budget you have to stay within. And there are, the energy plan, we're working on that. I was just found out that we can't do it for we can only do it for the high school. We can't do it for the other schools because we're SREC, Sussex Rural, and we don't pay a societal fee.
Mhm.
So that's going to be a savings when that happens, when they come here, and if we implement, because that's a free program. So if we implement what they tell us based on what we have in the long-range facilities plan and the resources available to maybe change out all the lighting, or then we can measure those savings. We save as far as going out for quotes. You get 3 quotes, we make sure we go with the best quote, not necessarily lowest, but we don't just purchase without looking first. We have co-ops, we look, so it's an ongoing, but I will note any major successes.
It's stuff that happens behind the scenes, but speaks very heavily to the effectiveness of the administration.
So I agree that should continue to be on here, and that, to the best of your abilities to record, what those savings are and report out to the finance committee, and that'll come through the full board. So should we change the verbiage of the activity itself to complete the development of multi-year financial projections and align district resources and revenues accordingly? I don't want to box you into a format that your predecessor was suggesting. You need to work with the finance committee and your office to develop what works for you.
Mhm.
So is everybody good with that? And then we'll keep the 2 other indicators of success. Okay. Oversee the proactive pursuit of all prudent alternative sources of revenue. We have been actively pursuing grants with some success.
Yes,
So,
finally. Good job. $350,000.
Again, thanks to Mr. Gagliostro and Ms. Homestead
So that
for
will
all
pay-
of their efforts with that. We presently, with the state, you have a document called EWIG, and when you go in, it lists all the things that you're actively pursuing. And presently, we have 4 grants sitting in there that we're actively pursuing. One that we just won, which is the $350,000 a year for the Glen Meadow Community Outreach, which will be from 3 to 6 every day at Glen Meadow. And that grant regenerates every year if we are successful. So we're talking about, and we could possibly increase it to 500,000 if we add additional programs or additional grade levels. So you're talking about a lot of money coming in to the district for that program. And we just finished up with the Pathways Grant, which basically financed 2 of the CTE programs who are now very wildly successful, particularly the Allied Health Program at the high school. Just ask any student who's involved in it. There's now a medical room in the high school based on money that we won from a grant. So we continue to pursue all of those. And again, I thank the team who works actively on it. Robin lets us know what she finds. And then Vinny and I and others tear it apart. So, and there's many others involved as well.
That's great because, based on the school, the board did about a year and a half ago create the position of the grant writer.
Yep, that's Robin.
And that's a $10,000 per year stipend. So
Mhm.
that grant will pay for that for 35 years. So
I'll let Robin
she's
know.
good. She's ahead of
Yes.
her
Let her know.
her salary on that. So we should continue to do this. We did have a referendum committee that began their work a year and a half ago. I think both Martin and Adina worked to identify projects. That committee tapered out with COVID because.
It just was. It just
Yeah.
was.
But you did identify some really critical projects,
Yes.
which have rolled into the Buildings and Grounds
Which they
Committee
did
and
roll
will roll
in.
into the Long Range Facilities Plan.
So we can take that off.
So we can
Exactly.
take that
We can take it
off,
off.
but there was good use out of that, and I appreciate everyone who put their time into that. So. Okay, we talked about marketing the district. We
Yes.
did have open house events prior to COVID, but we haven't
They were
been
great.
able to, and they were successful. We
Yeah,
had a
we can
lot
see
of
them
people come
again.
through.
No, I would love to
We
do them
can have
again.
them.
We just, we can do them now. I
Sure.
think that.
As long as we have this, we should be okay, right?
Yeah.
So if we said to
Visitors
folks,
are allowed and.
Yeah.
even if we put on our signs,
They have
masks
to wear masks,
required,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With
but
so
we'll get
much
you through.
relocation of families, that could
Yeah.
be really valuable.
I think it is. I think it is. That's
Now
why we
more than
started
prior to
it.
COVID.
So, and it's a
Yeah.
great retention piece. So, yeah, we'll get together with Dr. McKay.
Sure,
and
sure.
we'll have my perky people come.
Kelly, do you find that from people who are coming from out of the area and moving away from the city, as we've seen a lot of families doing,
Mhm.
that they're coming from, with realtors from out of the area? Or are they coming and finding a local realtor? Like, are there realtors outside of Vernon who we can inform about these events to make sure that we're,
The vast majority are coming to our local
They are.
agents, and our local agents have been really supportive of the initiatives that we've
Okay.
done. So they will call me and chat with me and say, can we get a tour for my people on this? Dr. McKay has been amazing.
Well, no, yeah, well,
So if we're gonna
what
do
our-
these
Accommodates everybody.
if we're gonna do these open house events, we should make sure that we're getting families that are
Yeah,
looking at moving to the
we've
area
been
that are
directing
outside
them
of
to
the area.
Dr. McKay, because we weren't doing the open
Yeah.
house
Right.
events, but now we're getting them back up and running.
What we tried to do when COVID was happening was after the kids had left the school, the school was empty, we would bring folks in. But we were worried about it, right? We're worried about everybody. So, but we have given tours this summer, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an active new population
Population, yeah.
and we're delighted to have them.
So
Yeah.
we
Like I
should
said,
definitely do that this year.
So we'll get the schedule started
Yeah.
in September, and we'll do September, October, November, like we did last time.
Mhm.
And, whoever would like to join me.
Perky committee.
Except
It was
you
great. I
have
mean,
to-
the-
you have
If
to-
you're not perky,
You know,
do
for-
it.
You have to be
For
careful.
new board members,
Stop putting your head.
it was really great for new board members. When we did these in the past, the board members would be at the front door to welcome people in and answer any initial questions. And then we'd set them up with an administrator who would tour them around the high school and show them everything that our high school had to offer. So it was really,
Mhm.
You may even want to think about putting,
Walking around with Dr. McKay, it was really
That's great.
wonderful, and I think Kelly mentioned the retention piece for our students in middle and high school, and I think we opened eyes to people who even live here, whose kids were here, K 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and had no idea what we have to offer at our high school.
there were families who said as they were leaving, we were thinking of not going to Vernon, but we changed our mind because they went through the school and saw how
I'm one of them.
well developed our high school is.
And
But I
by the
think
way, those students are still with us. I mean, I was on one of the open houses and accompanied a couple of families and they're still here. In other words, they didn't come and leave either, right?
Yeah.
So what we showed was this wonderful comprehensive high school, dedicated faculty, and they're still with us. So that's a testament.
Yeah, I mean,
They were very impressive. And all of the faculty that was there were volunteered their time. It was
Absolutely.
It was really
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Absolutely. And when you talk about their programs, even if the teacher wasn't there, the people are impressed with the program, and
And the classroom.
it's not just salesmanship. Then the children then go to those programs and they go home and tell their parents, my
This is-
goodness, it's unbelievable.
That was the
Yeah.
best part, when you saw how excited some of the kids got about going to high school and everything that they could do. That was the best part.
So
Yeah.
I think one of the things we might want to do also is put something on our website that says schedule a visit. Because when I went to move into town 4 years ago, I was looking for a town with a good school, et cetera, et cetera. The first place I went was a website. And then I had to go down, get the phone number. I called, made an appointment to make the tour. But I think that to let people know it's available to them, where they could sign up, somebody get back to them. Because, I have to say that the reason I moved to Vernon was because of the school. I had my choice of moving pretty much anywhere in the area I wanted to. And when I did come for the tour, it was impressive.
That's a good
Yeah,
suggestion.
that is a
Mark.
good
And
idea.
Thank you.
you like the perky people there.
I like the Bergen people.
I also have to
Right.
The
say,
engineering department was what impressed me the most.
I
but-
believe I brought this up once before, but we should be telling the people that the colleges these kids attend.
Yes,
And I will go back to Justin's grade. My daughter was in his grade.
yes.
I was trying to keep a kid, a hockey player, in Vernon from a school not to be named. And they
Oh, go
said, well,
ahead.
kids from Vernon don't go to these top schools. And in Justin's class, I remember, I believe there's 3 kids that went to
The top
Ivy
three,
League
yeah, the
schools.
top 3 kids went to,
Loyola, Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon for
Yes.
singing or acting.
Yes.
And the person was like shocked. They don't know that.
In the folder that we give them, Ray, we have what's called the senior brag sheet. And
I think we
it's
should put
something
it
that, yep.
in the
it's-
paper.
Mhm.
For the
You know,
website.
put it for everybody to
That
see.
should be out there.
You know, people, I mean, I did real estate long ago. They come, they grab the paper, they grab this, they look,
Mhm.
and they see that. I just think,
Yeah.
we got a great district,
Great idea.
we got our bumps like everybody else, but if there's one thing over the years I've been here, we don't promote it to the outside world as
Yeah.
much as we do.
So
here.
then on here, it says, that we're gonna work on a marketing piece. So maybe letter C would be to revamp our website. You know?
And maybe we have great brochures, great materials, maybe we can get them in the hands of agents.
Yeah.
Can you do that though?
We have done,
I don't
we have,
know.
we have
Kelly,
put
you
the
would
Yes,
know.
folders
yes, you
out to
can.
the.
We
to
have
the-
folders in our office.
Okay.
Yeah, we have folders in the office.
Awesome.
Yeah,
is
look
that
at the
something
other
that
programs.
is, I don't know what goes into the development of our entire website. Is that something that's doable this year?
Matt,
I
what,
don't think so.
what's,
I don't think so.
What-
I don't want to speak for Matt. I've been through this before.
I can't
Revamping
see
the
his
website
face.
is a
Is he making a face?
Well, you could do
But I
like
think we
small
can do
things.
additions to it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I
revamping
mean,
it
I
is.
know
Oh,
it
okay.
doesn't
You
totally.
said revamp. I was
Monumental
like,
task.
Yeah.
I go
God,
big or
I
go
started
home,
to get
Justin.
heart palpitations and I'm not that person.
okay,
Make additions.
Are fairly quick to do, so a schedule.
Schedule a visit. Yeah.
Those types of things are quick. If you're talking about blowing up the website and starting from scratch,
No,
that's like a 3 to 6 month project.
okay. So we should evaluate our website and evaluate and update our
we'll
website.
say update,
Website
not
should be,
revamp.
should be an ongoing thing anyway.
Okay,
Right, and
Right.
then which
I like update.
committee do you want, I mean, it's curriculum and technology, but that's
No,
not
student life.
really. Oh, so student life is gonna revamp the website?
no, it
No.
probably go under curriculum technology because we have
What?
Matt at every meeting,
We're
so.
marketing people.
I
student
got
life.
mad at my meetings, I win.
Who do you have?
I got Matt Shea. He comes
Matt,
to
you
my
don't
meetings.
come to my student life meetings.
because it's a technology.
Kelly,
It's
technology.
curriculum and technology.
Oh, Teresa's in technology?
Curriculum and
Well, it's
technology.
curriculum.
Curriculum and
And
technology.
We combine the
Okay.
two committees.
I thought it was
Because we're always
I thought it
working
was
together.
marketing.
This is all we
That's
do.
right.
Well, the
Marketing
website.
is our student life.
All right,
All right.
so we'll have to
Well, we
mesh this
can-
somehow,
but-
but
Yeah.
I'm just
Oh, there's
saying.
still a
Well,
large piece of
this will be a
Laura's gotta
challenge
figure
because you and
out-
Teresa never talk. So I don't know how you'll manage to figure this out. So you'll have to somehow get each other's numbers or something.
I know, yeah, they'll
have
have
to
to
figure
figure
out
out
I never say a thing, so I'm just shocked that you wouldn't know.
Matt, while we're talking about it,
Okay.
maybe tomorrow we can take a look at it. There's a niche study. It's called Niche and it's a rating of the different schools in New Jersey. And it's very clear and straightforward and it gives grades to us on certain things, B+ on this, B on this. Well, pretty well. And it's really well done. So maybe we can tack
We
that.
should be ranked in niche is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it shows where we are, but it's really clear cut and it's not so driven by people's comments. I mean, the comments that are on the site are good based on what our students have said and what our people, our parents have said. But the niche site just goes and it's like one page and it's really pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
it's great to use
maybe
for
we can
colleges
just
too.
do that.
Yeah.
And that might be a start. I don't know.
Okay.
So then last but not least is board training. So the second item under that is to complete mandated training required by NJSBA, which we do every year because we're required to. We're the only elected public officials that are regularly trained.
I would like to do a certified board, but
The problem with the certified board is that when you have board turnover, you have to start over because you
Start
have,
all over.
yeah, so
We did have
when I first joined, the board was very close to completing that. And then
We were right there.
some of us, like myself, joined and screwed it up because
Craig just did
it's
it.
based upon
Certain
X number of members have to have completed
Yeah.
X amount of trainings as a whole board. But when board members come and go, that becomes a,
I know, but can we look at it if?
I think this is a huge thing for us. 'Cause all the
Right.
stuff we talked about before is all great and stuff, but we gotta function better.
I agree
And
with
I
that.
think training is, because we got 1, 2, 5, 6 brand new relatively members. You know, even with an election, if people aren't here, there'll be new members. So we should certainly,
So, I mean. if
never heard about a
there's always
weekend where
turnover.
Can I
people
just say
spend
that-
all day,
yeah.
but we need to do that.
If the three of them get reelected, then we could do the certified board because we would probably be right on track to be able to do it in time.
How
Maybe.
long- how
Can
long
we
does
get
it
excited?
We have to look
Can
at
we get
what-
excited
We
about
have
this,
to look,
please?
we
How
have to
long
look
does
at
it
what the
take?
process
I'm
entails.
sorry. How long does it take for the certified board?
It
Was like-
takes long.
Like,
There's just, I don't know.
It's hours-
Really,
it's
I'm
hours.
just asking. 'cause
Don't
I
listen to her.
I have never been called perky, so. don't
It's
worry
hours of
about that.
training.
I was
So,
just curious.
We should
I
look
don't
into
know
the
as well.
requirements of that, of what becoming a
I
certified
will
board.
look into that.
Great. But in addition
It's
to
like-
that, just speaking in general terms to what Ray is bringing up, we have tried on numerous occasions to schedule
Yeah.
board retreats and board trainings, and scheduling that has been a beast. Because we were working with like 12 different schedules, and usually that would be something that would occur on like a Saturday because it's a full day thing. You know, you'd be here for 4 or 6 hours. I am always open to that if there's interest from the rest of the board.
I think that would be great.
I don't think it should be optional. I don't know what,
You should make
there
it,
could be consequence, but we gotta figure it out to get there, because
I
we
think
need
the
a lot of
investment-
training with so many new members.
Yeah. The investment.
Can't
is-
hurt us.
Yeah.
why don't we
Well, and
make
I
that
think just
a
getting to
goal?
know-
Is one meeting, one weekend a year or something, we all go together, and just
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. I do understand kind of the troubles, like you said, 12 schedules.
We tried 3 times.
I feel like the last time the board did it was like 2018, or somewhere about that. I do think it's a good idea to try. I think there's a certain amount of us getting to know each other on a little bit more of a personal level that will help the way we work together.
The other point that
What?
I think,
No.
the other point that Ray said was, I don't mean, I think he used the word voluntary, but I don't know that I think we were trying to get everybody to be there, and I think that's why it was rescheduled so many times. Even having the majority of the members there, we have such a vast amount of knowledge from our veteran members, the folks that have been on the board for a long time, plus the people that are relatively new. Even having the opportunity to have veteran members with newer members still gives us the opportunity to start to cross-train one another. I'm just a huge advocate of training and professional development. I mean, I think it's important. And, we talk often about being a little more efficient, streamlining the process, shortening board meetings. All of those things could maybe be achieved when we look at training. Well, I'm just
I
saying.
think that it's a
We're
great.
not even on- we're not even through our discussion.
I
It's 9:30,
completely,
so,
yep, I
you know.
completely agree. If there's interest from the rest of the board, which it sounds like there is interest in doing that, we should try to get that on the
Well,
calendar
then
again.
why don't we? put it
I
as a goal?
agree. And one of the things that made it a little more feasible in the past was when we did have the training, which New Jersey School Boards, our trainer comes up and she hosts it and whatnot. it was like, I think Karen just said it was the majority, like not every single person had to be there. Cause I think someone
Right.
in their family just had a baby, but then someone joined by video. So that counted. You know, you do what you can. There's 9 of us.
It's still better than
It's better than
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah, our goal, what's our goal now? 0, so let's.
Right.
So
Metric,
80%, you know.
The metric
80%
is more than
participation.
0.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Right, so we want to
not
complete a
like-
board, we want to call it a board retreat, right?
Yes.
We're looking to do complete one board
Wow.
retreat per year,
Yes.
and that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
As far as planning that goes,
I will plan.
Kelly, she's perky.
I think my suggestion.
And I'm at the county level, so I see Kathy all the time.
So what I think we should do to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the diverse places that everybody on the board is coming from, is I'd like to put together a little group to plan that. So I'd like to, Kelly and I, as board leadership, I'd like to invite maybe the most senior and one of the most new members of the board, 4 of us to get together to have a little planning session, talk about what topics we think might be of interest, and then come back to the board with a plan.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody? Okay, so most senior member by length of service is Joe or Teresa.
Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, you're free, right?
Joe or Teresa, if it depends if you look at consecutive, you guys can fight over
Well,
that
Teresa
spot.
is actually a lot older than I, so she's my senior.
I know all my
So you and
grandchildren.
Joe can fight over who will join us.
Joe will be joining you when he gets back.
And either Charles or Martin or Ray.
I'm up for it, whatever anybody wants to do.
I just joined
They're
that
both
other.
pointing at each other.
You're up.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I'll do
got
it.
him for the ad hoc, so you
Okay.
can start.
So
Okay, so what
Charles,
is it, Charles?
I'm gonna get beat up on that.
you, me, and either Teresa or Joe.
I'll be happy to serve if you need
Great.
me.
All right, so the 4 of us
And,
should get
and be
together.
perky about it.
Oh, and he's willing to be perky.
Great.
This is awesome.
All right, so the 4 of us should get together in the
And
next
that was
month.
on video.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
recorded.
Sweeney.
This is all on
Teresa,
video.
you owe me one.
All
And
right,
we'll
so
come up with a format and a
Charles,
plan.
Joe, Justin, Kelly.
Right.
Okay,
All right, we'll meet in the
Great
next
idea.
few weeks.
this is gonna be the best day ever.
Just
All
bring
right.
food, they will come.
Okay.
Right, definitely has to have.
All right.
food.
All right, so I will
And you
modify
have
this
to bring,
document.
we bring food. We don't pay with the board money. to bring
Yes,
food.
yes.
That's right.
That's
Put
right.
that on the
I will
slate.
buy the food.
I'll
I
buy
will
the
buy
I make a motion that Teresa Litsky shut up.
Yeah, really.
Joe
Teresa's
wants,
cooking.
Joe wants bagels and coffee. All right,
Okay.
so
We're done with
we will modify that and get
Good
a new
hour.
draft out to everybody. Next, superintendent goals. See, that wasn't too painful, everyone.
I'm not sure how to proceed considering, did anybody bring pajamas or slippers? So
We're all gonna see it straight.
the superintendent draft goals do say draft on them. They've been provided to the board. They're also provided on the website when we upload all of the documents that the board receives. I don't want it to be lengthy, but there are certainly important things to talk about here. So their projected goals, the first one is assess, monitor, improve wellness practices in the district to support student and staff, mental and physical health and academic growth with a focus on continued transitioning and support of students and staff back to the ever-changing school environment while considering the future needs of our students and staff post-COVID. It's really hard to predict what the future will hold. I think that this year we'll be dealing with COVID and I hope next year we will not, but the first major activity talks about developing a plan to re-enroll, identify, recruit lost or unenrolled, homeschooled, or transferred students as a result of the pandemic. I need a close parenthesis there. My concern, and I don't know the real estate projections, but depending on what happens with COVID, we could have parents who opt to homeschool their children based on some of the masking comments here tonight. There are also a number of studies coming out now about lost kindergartners across the country, that it's the largest number of any grades K-12, that parents understandably said, I'm not sending you to school. So I think it's important for us to monitor the enrollment and the unenrollment of our students this year so that we can kind of be ahead of that curve for the future. And of course, some of the items are academic and SEL summer programs, similar to the ones we ran this year, as well as after school or other programs to support and enhance SEL and academic needs. And then providing recommendations for how we will need to shift instructional practice moving forward to accommodate any future COVID needs. That speaks a little to the potential of a hybrid or virtual model if we need to go in that direction again. And then use ESSER or other grant funds to support services needed moving forward where necessary. Questions, comments on the first number of goal 1?
I just have a comment. I mean, just looking at this for the first time today and being pretty much a new board member and stuff.
I think I
mean,
sent it yesterday though, Martin,
Okay,
or 2
but
days ago. Or
we have
something.
jobs, so
Oh.
we have to work. And
Right, no, sure.
Today was when I looked at it.
I didn't want you to not have it ahead of
But
time.
can I don't know how the other board members feel about it, but can we table this discussion until we get a chance to really review this? I'd like to put, a little bit of effort into it, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
just
Yeah.
reviewing it and having you say it and everything is great, but I don't
I
really, I
have
don't
no
feel I had
problem
enough
at
time to
all.
review it to really make any comments whatsoever.
Yeah, you know what? I think the only reason I brought it forward was that in my contract, there's language that says that the goals need to be reviewed and approved before September 1st.
Oh,
If the board chooses to amend or soften, that contractual language, that's up to you. As a board, you can do that.
We could do it next week, right?
You could.
I mean, even if we waited till next, I just like a
Yeah.
chance to really look at it. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
they
know how
were
everybody
not-
else feels if I'm way
They
off the mark.
they were not
Yeah, I
approved
mean,
last year. Last year, we didn't, I'm sorry, last year, we didn't end up finally approving them till like October. They went through several revisions.
Right.
Oh, so you
I
wanted
want-
to get it, okay, you wanted to get it underway in case we
I
have.
mean, if everybody will agree to read this and then we can really talk about it next
Yeah.
week, but I want to stay within the contract language. So if we could please just make sure that you all read this. And if you have any questions, if you can email Karen's, that way we come to the table next week,
Good.
really prepared.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
make a much more productive
Okay.
conversation.
All right,
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah, thank you very much. Much appreciated. But you don't need your pajamas.
No pajamas yet.
All right.
Although we have
We've got 10 more pages
to
of
go.
agenda.
Don't get, we're only on page 3.
No, we're gonna fly through this again.
Okay.
Number 4, school start times.
Yes, this was a request to be placed on the agenda. If my computer hasn't died, I have a statement that's actually not totally complete, but the adjustment to starting our schools approximately 15 minutes later was shared via notifications from principals at the end of the first week of August. The reason the information was shared then was to give ample time for families to make the necessary adjustments to their schedules prior to schools opening. In order to successfully and safely transport all of our students, we must ensure adequate time between routes. This is due to the large geographic area that buses need to cover and the terrain our buses travel. Therefore, almost an hour between each tier is important to pick up students, drop them off at one school, then have the same buses head out to a remote part of Vernon to pick up another group of students, therefore the tiers.
Right.
This limited resource is of concern this year. Oh, I'm sorry. There's also been a driver shortage that we remain concerned about. This limited resource is of concern this year and will be in future years. I think if we're going to continue to talk about start times, the limited resource of certified drivers is going to be a huge obstacle. In fact, some schools in the county have reported that driver shortages have further impacted their routes and the ability to transport students to and from schools. We can say safely that we have the drivers we need for now. While any adjustment to our normal routine can be challenging and wrought with obstacles, I remain dedicated to working through these concerns with parents and caregivers. We had a total of 3 people contact the district in regards to questions or concerns about a 15-minute adjustment. I'm certain that working together, accommodations can be made to assist families where necessary. I'm also aware that due to COVID, everyone is still a little fragile, right? So anytime that we're moving through changes or challenges, it can be difficult. So with grace and compassion, I think that that's essential to problem solving. The impact of a 15-minute change has likely created scheduling challenges for elementary school parents, but a sigh of relief for middle and high school students who, for the most part, do not get enough sleep and whose lack of sleep impacts academic performance, driving, tardies to school, absenteeism, and other essential items to perform well in school. Wellness is a topic that should be at the forefront of all conversations during the pandemic. I know we're not talking about my goals this evening, but you can see that wellness is something that I think is really essential for us to talk about for our faculty, staff, students, families, and for everyone as we embark on another challenging school year. I don't have specific information to discuss. I don't know if the board has questions.
I did add this to the agenda, and I thank you for putting it on. I asked to have it added to the agenda because I'm very much against it. And I want the public to know that this was not a discussion with the board, the full board at all. We found out after the teachers found out. I'm very disappointed about that. I think that during a difficult time, especially during COVID, to add a layer of change of 15 minutes, which, you referenced lack of sleep. 15 minutes is just one slap of the snooze alarm. So I don't know that that's really gaining anything for anybody. And I don't like how we didn't have a discussion. We discussed everything ad nauseum here at the board, and we didn't even have the opportunity to discuss it. It's disrupting the entire community, businesses, students, teachers, and parents that have to get to work. And I don't think that the 15 minutes was worth it. And I'm asking if we can have a reversal of it. And that's what I have to say about that.
So I totally disagree with that. As we talked about earlier, there's copious research that supports the academics behind it, that it's positive for mental health, that there actually is an impact for 15 minutes. There are studies that specifically studied 15 minutes and showed that there's a positive impact in students on multiple levels. I can share them with you. I think that it was a great move by the administration because we had the opportunity to make it happen. It's something we've been kicking down the road for years, and we all know the research is there to support it. It might be an incremental step, but if you want to do something and you get a chance to take a step toward the road that you want to be on, you should grab it. And the timing was such that you couldn't wait to talk to the board, or you wouldn't be giving people the notice they needed to adjust. And parents do adjust. I mean, change is hard, right? Good change, bad change, they're both hard. You have to adjust, but that doesn't mean you don't do it if it's something that's good for students. That's what we're supposed to do here, do what's best for students.
I will say that I am in support of this decision for many reasons. The newest study, which was April 2021, expanded the study, not just high school like previous studies, but also to all the way down to grade 5. The study showed that even with a 15 to 20 minute delay, so to speak, that students were more likely to actually get the recommended sleep. Someone who had emailed in said, well, we're just going to go to sleep later. That study did not prove for that to be true, that students were actually getting the recommended amount of sleep. And that we know that greater sleep yields better academic outcomes. And even more important than that, than actual GPA, that the extra sleep, the right amount of sleep does enhance cognition and memory, which then leads to those academic outcomes. This was one of the first studies of its kind to go down to 5th grade. It was done with the University of Minnesota, with the Bloomington Public Schools. We've been talking about later start times since 2019. There was an opportunity here that our administration needed to seize. And I'm glad that you did, so thank you.
So I'd like to chime in for a second here. Sorry, I got too close to my microphone.
Nope,
Go ahead. Dr.
Nope,
McKay,
go right
first. I think that the feedback that I've received from my children are that they don't like it. My 16-year-old cannot get to work on time. I take my hat off to the sophomore who wrote that email.
Mhm.
It was extremely well written.
Yes,
It hit every single point that my own children brought up. Okay.
absolutely.
Relying on these studies, okay, knowing what I know about statistics and whatnot. Okay, figures lie and liars figure. Okay. You have to take into consideration the sample size, the part of the country, things of that nature. Okay. I'm sorry, but it's my opinion that anybody who thinks that these children are going to get 15 minutes more sleep is completely fooling themselves. Okay, because this will give the children a false sense of, I can sleep later, so I can stay up later. And I actually think they're going to end up staying up even later than that 15 minutes. Okay, I don't know that the impact is positive whatsoever. I think it's going to have a negative impact on parents bringing their kids to the bus stop and having to get to work. I think it's going to have a negative impact on sports teams. And it's definitely going to have a negative impact on those children who work, because their working hours might go from 3 o'clock to 4 or 5 hours from them to now 4 o'clock to 4 or 5 hours from them, because they can't make it. There's no way in the world they're going to make it to work by 3 o'clock. All right. The only way that my daughter's going to make work by 3 o'clock is if I pick her up at school and bring her right to work. And that's unfair to the kid.
I'm not a big fan of it either for some of the reasons with Martin. I understand the studies, but you know, studies are studies. Look at the mask study. I can give you 50 studies both ways to wear the mask, don't wear the mask on your head. I mean, studies are studies, but 15 minutes to me doesn't make a big difference. The sports, that girl played for me last year, the sophomore, and I see rushing in, you know, they don't have much time to get ready as it is. I'm sure I can find a study that kids who go to a sport and are rushing to get ready are more likely to get hurt than kids who have adequate time to prepare.
Absolutely.
And this goes even for clubs, everything. I mean, Vernon, you know, we pretty much have everything for these kids. And now they're all going to be rushing around, getting later, changing the buses, you know, in the winter when it's darker, earlier. I just don't see that the 15 minutes. If the whole county or the state was going to move an hour, then it would make more sense to me. Just hours, an hour, hour and a half. But to me, 15 minutes doesn't make that, it's not worth the disruption that it will cause. And plus, where we're located, you know, I know sports more than the other things. Our away games are far, you know, and I'm not even talking about hockey, just all the regular teams are down Morris County. I mean, we're in the Sussex-Warren division, so I would say we just keep it the same. And
The
if you
whole
can't-
county is already starting later than us. We are the earliest.
And we're the
start time
furthest away.
In the county.
You know, Sparta and them are close to civilization.
We've
We're
been
way
told
out.
for years now that we could do 20 minutes without affecting sports. We've been told that for years. So I don't know why that would suddenly be a problem on sports.
I don't know who said that.
I was
can know
told
from my
that by
own
Steve
sport.
Hefness. I was told that by the transportation person, no extra cost, no issue with getting the games on time. So that was the most we could possibly do was 20 minutes. So, and
Well,
that's
I
in our
wasn't there
teacher's
for that, but-
contract. We have that flexibility to do. I understand there might be a portion of kids who don't like this change, but you know, like I said before, a good change doesn't mean that if you find a handful of people who don't like it, that doesn't mean that it's not a good change. We have a whole middle school and an entire high school. Every single student will benefit from this. Maybe some won't or don't feel that they will. We don't know that they won't. And as for your study thing, yeah, maybe you can find that study, but I've already found like 100 studies. So if you can
It's
find
more
one
time- more time
against
than
my
15
100, you know,
minutes,
let's at least bring it to the
But the
table. Don't
studies,
tell me
the
you might
studies
find
don't
one.
explain why we weren't discussing this as a board, which we discuss everything as a
We
board.
have been
We've-
since 2019.
And a decision was made and told to the teachers and the board didn't even know.
Okay,
It's
so
been a
maybe
board-
Wait, but let's not
it's been a
conflate two
board
issues. If
priority
you want to, we can talk about communication and we can talk about the ultimate
Okay,
decision,
well,
but those
I-
are two separate conversations.
Yes.
I'm asking that we reverse this decision and go back to the schedule the way it should be.
Wait, before we do that, can I just have a clarification? Because I'm trying to follow all of this. The 15 minutes is due to busing? Or the 15 minutes was put in place to meet students' physiological needs? I'm getting a little confused. I got to figure out which way this argument is going.
Sounds like it was
And
both.
this
Students'
is even a
needs.
board decision. I mean,
I was in
this is a board
I
decision.
taught in that building for 25 years, and there's another person that
No,
taught.
I'm sorry, Chuck, before you go, I need to know if this was.
Wellness.
I'm hearing it's wellness or it's busing. Like,
No,
this
there's
is a
no-
little all over the place. That's
It
why I
has,
just-
it has nothing to do with busing. You
Busing
need
just
the
moves
same amount
15
of,
minutes.
you need the same amount of bus
Statement that we
drivers.
just got was busing. So that's why I'm getting a
Oh,
little
well,
confused.
that's not true because
Do
you
you
need
wanna
the same amount of
clarify?
bus drivers.
I
just-
also talked about wellness at the end of my statement.
Right, I know, I tried to follow. So it's both. So which came first, the the chicken or the egg? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What is this based upon? We're killing two birds with one stone? Or this is purely wellness and busing happened to fall in, or there was a busing issue and then it was like, oh, it'll meet students' needs.
If it's purely wellness, why is that a bad thing?
Right,
I'm
that's
just
true.
asking because I'm not understanding that. So if that could be clarified, so that way then the conversation can continue, that would be helpful.
The
I'm not
busing
sure
is-
the bearing it has on the conversation, but it's definitely, the wellness of our students is really important. I would say if we were gonna rank order them, I'd rank order them wellness and then busing.
Okay, thank you.
So I would challenge the paper that you cited. Because you cited a paper from the University of Minneapolis, which